Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I am Brian Lee Durfee, author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today we're going to be reviewing Blaze by Stephen King. Now, this is also one of his Richard Bachman novels. In fact, it's probably the last Richard Bachman novel, I think. I mean, some of you might remember that he wrote Thinner under the pseudonym Richard Bachman. And he also wrote 4 other Bachman novels: Rage, The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Running Man, all of which I have reviewed on this channel. So you can look up my reviews for Thinner, The Long Walk, Road Work, and The Running Man. I actually haven't reviewed Rage because Stephen King does not like that novel. Out of respect for Stephen King and his distaste for his own novel Rage, I decided not to review that book in my Stephen King review series. And if you've been following this channel, you know my Stephen King review series. We've been reviewing every single Stephen King novel in order of publication. We are to Rage now. No, Blaze now. I get the I will edit out all of these mistakes. I swear to God, I will this time. We're reviewing Blaze, not Rage. We will never review Rage, like I said, because Stephen King hates that novel. And if you know anything about that novel, you'll know why he hates that and why he doesn't want people reading it. But anyway, let's talk about Blaze. So yeah, we're publication order. We're getting down to about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through his books. I've probably dropped close to 60 reviews of his books at this point. And so we've probably got a good 15 to 20 novels left to review. Now, I have been reviewing the audible.com version so let's talk about that. The audible.com version, which I just barely listened to this day, was done by Ron McClarty. He has done quite a few of the Stephen King novels. He does a great job. This is an easy listen. This is not a big book. I listened to this on Audible on a 5-hour drive I just took through southern Utah. And that's all it took. Of course, it's a 10-hour Audible book. But if you speed up things to 200, okay, so I don't know how it works. 100 is regular speed. 150 is regular speed and a half. 200 is double the speed. I listened to it at double the speed, so it only took me 5 hours of driving around in the car to listen to this. It was delightful. I actually really, really, really liked it. Really liked it. Let's judge the covers first, though, because on this channel, I love graphic design and cover illustration. We always judge the covers first. I've got the original hardback here and the trade paperback. Which one do I like best? I gotta tell you, I think I like the hardcover best. This is, well, they've both got the same, a house with some trees. This one is more of makes it look like a snowy scene. Well, this is a snowy scene too. This is a very bright snowy scene. This is a very dark snowy scene. I think I like this one a little better than this one. One of the reasons I do is because on this one, the Richard Bachman name is really small right here. On this one, it's right up top. So, what's the book about? Oh, it's absolutely wonderful. I would compare this to of Mice and Men. This has got a real Of Mice and Men feel to it. And if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. It's got kind of a smart guy who's in charge of sort of a dumb guy throughout the whole story. And the smart guy isn't necessarily the best of guys. The dumb guy has a heart. Even though he's just a criminal, he's a bumbling criminal from the get-go. And the thing I loved about this book is it talked about our Our dumb guy is Clayton Blaisdell, nicknamed Blaze. So Caitlin, not Caitlin, Clayton. That will get edited out too. Caitlin Blaze. No, there were no sex change operations. This was Clayton Blaisdell, is the big dumb guy. He's big and dumb like me, but unlike me, I mean, he's got a big dent in his forehead up here, like a big, noticeable, shocking dent in his forehead, which is that's the first thing they see about him is, holy, what's going on with the guy's forehead, right? So that's like a real noticeable thing about him. And plus he's like 6'4" to 6'6" and about 350 pounds. He's just a dude that's noticeable even without the dent in his forehead. But he's got the dent in his forehead. And he's a bit of a simpleton. Not dumb. I mean, he's like Forrest Gumpy, if that makes sense. And we get this book told to us through the present day and then flashbacks. Now, the present day, from what I can gather, is, it says right here he's 6'7" and just under 300 pounds. So I got that part wrong, too. We will edit the wrong parts out again. So it's told through present day, and I'm gathering the present day is somewhere between 1975 and maybe 1985, just based off of some of the stuff that's in here. And Stephen King in the introduction makes it a point to let you know that he was vague about the time frame of when this happened. But I am guessing most of the action takes place somewhere between 75 and 85. However, we do flash back to young Clayton Blaisdell's youth when he was in youth detention centers a lot. And those scenes probably took place somewhere in the 1960s, I'm gathering. This book bears a lot of similarities, not only to Of Mice and Men, but to of Stephen King's other works like The Body, the parts of It where the kids were growing up, just the small town coming of age type things, but with a twist, with a dumb kid with a hole in his head, or caved in head. Looks like somebody took a pole and went bonk and caved it in. But anyway, it's noticeable, and everybody likes everybody likes Clayton Blaisdell, aka Blaze. Everybody likes him wherever he goes. He's just a likable dude. He's just a good friend to everybody. Even in his youth, when we're bouncing back and forth from the present day to his youth, you see how his youth, he's very well liked, but he gets into trouble after trouble after trouble. It's like he's raised by in foster homes, orphanages, in the system, in the juvenile detention system. He's just raised in a way that you can just tell his life is not, he's not being raised by the best of people. Nor is he surrounded by the best of friends. But they all kind of love him. But they all sort of also take advantage of him. And they sort of tease him. And they send him off on quests and adventures where they know he's going to get in trouble. And you can see why when he grows up to be an adult and he joins up forces with George, who is the sort of the antagonist of the George Rackley is sort of the antagonist of, he's the they just become a team of robbers where George Rackley uses the adult Forrest Gump-like naivete of Clayton Blaisdell in their thievery and schemes. And this goes on for quite a while. And but George eventually, this happens early on, George eventually dies. But Blaze, or Clayton Blaisdell, is a little bit mentally ill. And he still talks to George. He talks to him often. In fact, even in death, George still manages to convince Blaze into committing some pretty egregious crimes. But he convinces George into doing it in a way that George is almost like, yeah, this is the right thing to do. And what happens is the big crime that is the main focus of this whole story is George convinces Clayton Blaisdell to steal a baby and hold it for ransom and get some money. What happens is George does steal the baby, but George is basically not George, but Caitlin, Blaze. I should just call this fucker Blaze. Blaze. From now on, his name is Blaze, not Caitlin or Clayton or Blaisdell or George. It's Blaze. Okay, so from now on, so Blaze breaks into a home, takes baby, and this is where I'm going to stop talking about much of the plot, because he is hunted by the FBI. Well, he's hunted by everybody. And but he's just a simpleton. It's almost as if Forrest Gump had kidnapped a child at some point. You would have been rooting for the guy. You were rooting you would have rooted for Forrest Gump to succeed in this caper, because he actually really does take this baby seriously. He doesn't like abuse it or misabuse it or starve it, or I mean, he actually he's just a decent guy. And that's where you're kind of like, my God, this dude has been a criminal his whole life. And we've read about his exploits as a youth, but it seems like everybody else has sort of put him up to these schemes. It's like he'd never really made his own decisions necessarily. He did things to please others. He even does things to please George, who is dead, because he's schizophrenic. He sees George. He talks to George. He has conversations. He lets the dead George, the spirit of dead George, still talk him into capers and theft and different things, because they had a long life of pulling this stuff off. And George really sort of Blaze really sort of worshipped George, because George's schemes always sort of pulled through. They always sort of came out smelling like roses in the end. And so that's the basis of the book. And you just feel like you're watching a sweet, sweet man being taken advantage of by everybody in his life, including his own brain, which is talking to people that aren't there. And everything he does, he feels like he's got a good reason behind it. And so you're just rooting for him, but you know this is a tragedy. This is the train. The train is rolling towards tragedy. And you can feel it with every word. And it's just one of the more sort of like things that Stephen King has written that's very literary. It's very different in that it's not like a horror novel. It doesn't have supernatural elements other than the schizophrenia that our main guy Blaze feels, and it's real. It's real to him. But my God, you just don't want anything to happen to this guy, even though he's been a crook his whole life. It's all a trick that very few writers can pull off. So anyway, I actually really enjoyed driving around southern Utah for 5 hours listening to this story. And I gotta say, I didn't remember when I first read it, when it came out about 12 years ago, I didn't remember. It was unmemorable to me. I will always remember this after reading it the second time. I'm going to give this a solid 9.5 out of 10. It's one of the more pleasant surprises I've had in my journey of rereading and reviewing all of these Stephen King novels in order of publication. So that's my final word. Blaze. Clayton Blaisdell. 9.5 out of 10.